That's a good idea. Are we all here? I didn't think about a bullhorn, but I guess it's fitting that we start a cemetery tour at the end. And that's what this is, the end of a cemetery. And this is where the Hudson County Burial Ground that was associated with the county institutions over here at Snake Hill was located. There's questions about how many burials were actually here and exactly where the cemetery was located. The first incident, it evidently operated from about 1880 up to all the way up to 1962. People from the cemetery, by the way, this thing says it's a potted cemetery. You members who were at our talk with Dan McDonough from Seaport is objected to that because he said it wasn't just poor people who was buried here. It was, anybody who may have died in the cemetery, in the hospitals, but there were many people who died in cemeteries whose families did claim the bodies and take them and bury them someplace else. So it seemed as if they were people that didn't have anybody else who would be wanting to take them. It was scattered all through here. When the turnpike came through in 1950s, evidently they wanted to come through the cemetery, which at that time was still an operating cemetery. There's all different, by the way, every cemetery we'll visit there's going to be mysteries about. The answers are never answered completely. But evidently, from what I understand, that the county said, well, you can't build it through there. The only thing you can do is if you find any remains, you do have to disinter them and put them, and supposedly by the footings they did find it. Later on, they did find evidence that they did do that, the county. Then we moved ahead. Now, by the way, the whole county, why did this happen? The turnpike was built in 23 months. That's from the top to bottom. It's amazing because I know they've taken 3 years just to fix Tunley Avenue. But they managed to build that in 23 months because things were different then. Things, people didn't always have respect, and if they wanted to go, they were going to go, and they were going to get through there. So that's what happened. We move ahead to 2002. This exit, this is 15X, which I don't know how many of you have taken 15X. I call it the exit to nowhere. It's a strange exit, but they wanted to build this exit here, which did come even more so on top of the cemetery. This section here was definitely part of the cemetery. So there was a public outlaw. There was at least one person who knew his family was buried here, and he had been fighting for years to identify them. There was a court battle over it, and it was decided the turnpike would have to disinter the bodies and rebury them. It's up to this date, it was the largest disinterment and reinterment. Is that still true in the country? There was over 4,500 bodies exhumed from here. The trouble is that the burial records list about 7,000 bodies. So there was a question are there still people buried here? And again, one of those questions are, where exactly was the location of the cemetery? Many people say, well, it did continue over here. I tried to point out there is a road that leads up there that you can almost touch the turnpike on. Bob Hazard knows very well because he and I got stuck in a ditch out there a couple of weeks ago. We thought we were going to be the newest members of this cemetery, but we did get out. There's a lake, what looks like a lake here. That was actually created by the runoff of the turnpike and the new exit. That wasn't there before. And there's another one on the other side of the road that they call the Turtle Pond. Supposedly there's still people buried here, but I can only say supposedly because everything's always a mystery. There were as far as I know, by the way, I came looking for this thing back in the 70s, and I couldn't find it, but honestly, I never looked here. This was too obvious to me. I always looked back there. I walked around in the woods back there looking for they said they were ceramics markers buried in the ground with a number on them, and I went looking for them, and I actually drove right past it, never thought about it. But later on, I know there was a dilapidated old building here, and later on I found out that dilapidated old building was actually the cemetery office, and if I had looked a little closer, I might actually have found them, but I was never successful. One of the things that also caused confusion, in the 1960s, the county did pay a contract to exhume the bodies and take them out. it was criminally botched. He didn't move the bodies. He just took the stones out and claimed he moved the bodies. So it created. He was actually indicted and was going to be tried, but he died before he was tried. So that's another question. Did he move any bodies? Did he possibly move some bodies? I don't know. There's a rumor that some bodies in the past were exhumed from here and buried in Jersey City Cemetery. It's only a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. So anyway, of the 4,500 they did move, they really were only able to identify 900 of the people. But they're buried in a mass grave at Maple Grove Cemetery in Hackensack. All 7,000 names are listed on them. I mean, because they said, well, we don't know really who we dug up and who we didn't dig up, so they felt they had to put all the names on them. But the question still remains: are there more bodies out here somewhere?
Don't they have machine that they can?
Possibly, possibly they can be found. And as I said, even I've asked people if they found any of the markers, guys who work here. Did you guys ever find it? Yeah. Now, by the way, these two people know every inch of this.
Yeah, we've been looking, but they said there was a lot of soil put over the grave when they built the original, so you really can't see it. But we did find the old road to the penitentiary, which is around this curve here.
Right.
There's a construction site that's fenced in, and right next to it, adjacent to it, there's a little hill. The original road, and I think there's sycamore trees. The trees that are in Jersey City aren't every, those very trees, and they actually were like columns of the trees, goes right up. Then there's a cliff where there's obviously, we know it's the penitentiary from the maps, because they were out here with the maps. So you can see the footings of the penitentiary actually curved around it, right around that
so the penitentiary was probably the closest to the cemetery.
Right here we are. And then we've been over to the smokestack, and there's a lot of footings there. And according to the maps, the hill was going out this way from the smokestack, some of the buildings. So you can see the original roads if you want to tramp around, but I would make sure I'm more.
They're very difficult, the roads. They're
Nobody stops you though.
Hudson County Burial Ground, or Potter's Field, which from 1880 to 1962 was the final resting place for the county's poor, destitute, and unknown. In 2003, a team of archaeologists working for the New Jersey Turnpike Authority disinterred the remains of 4,571 individuals. The unclaimed remains of 4,569 individuals have been reburied at the Maple Grove Cemetery in Hackensack, New Jersey. So, but this is the perfect example of what can happen to cemeteries if people forget. This was a different type of thing. It was out of sight, out of mind. That people didn't have families. But there's many abandoned cemeteries around the state that may, face the same type of fate. The other problem it had is because it turned out it wound up to be on a very valuable piece of property sometime, so they got moved. So.